What is going on, my Guardian Gamers? It's I, Birdman, back with another Titan setup. Today I'm doing a really cool arc melee build with a really fun pair of exotic gauntlets that we got back in season the Plunder. This can be taken into endgame content and just absolutely demolish everybody, or you can just do, fun regular activities and demolish even harder. But know before you get into the video that you can follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Birdman778. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something that you're interested in seeing down below, whether it is Hunter, Titan, or Warlock, or just like theory or tips or tricks or anything like that. And then maybe become a member of the channel if you really feel like it. But let's get right on into it. Before we get into the build, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Advanced GG. They're the only clinically proven supplement for gamers out on the market right now that truly does help you with your performance, whether it's your focus or your energy. They've recently actually updated their magic rainbow sherbet flavor, which was always a favorite of mine. Make sure you're using code BIRD at checkout for 30% off from Monday the 25th to Thursday the 28th. Thank you again to Advanced GG for sponsoring this video. Now, we always like to start with what exotic that we're going to be using for this setup, and that's obviously going to be those point contact cannon brace exotic gauntlets. Again, we got these back in season of the Plunder, and they read Hammer of the Gods. Defeating targets with your thunderclap melee restores melee energy, and targets near you when you use your thunderclap suffer lightning strikes and become jolted. Being amplified increases the damage of these lightning strikes. Now, when these originally came out, they were really cool, and then unfortunately they had a bit of like a nerf added to them. Bungie realized that that was a poor choice and kind of fixed them up again, and now they're in the current state that they're at, and I think they're pretty freaking awesome. Now, there's another exotic that you can really use for the setup if you really feel like it, and that is going to be an insurmountable skull fort. It rates kills with arc melee abilities, trigger health regen, and restores melee energy. I would recommend this if you're maybe like a lower light player, you just haven't gotten the contact cannon braces yet, and you're having to deal with like a lot of like health regen issues and stuff like this. But for the most part, the contact cannon braces are going to be the best option for overall damage and just clearing adds out with those insane lightning strikes. Now, for what you're going to be using for the subclass on this setup, obviously you're going to have to go Striker Titan, and for the super, I recommend Thunder Crash, purely off the fact that both it and Fists of Havoc have the same cooldown, but Thunder Crash is a start and stop super, so you just activate it, you fly through the air, hit your enemy, and then you're done with it, versus Fists of Havoc where you have to run around with that roaming super and get kills. It's not as great against bosses and stuff, versus Thunder Crash where you're able to take a quick chunk out and then just move on to your next super from there. For your abilities, I recommend Thruster because it has the lowest base cooldown versus your Towering Barricade and your Rally Barricade. Obviously the Rally is only like 2 seconds more, but I just really like this just for quick activation and being able to use those different mods that we're using in our armor pieces. Obviously we're going to be wanting to use the Thunderclap for this, but again, a big thing to note with Thunderclap is no matter what, whether you fully charge it up to its highest damage potential or just like click it real fast, you are going to get those lightning strikes activated. So definitely recommend, doesn't really matter which one you do, just go with it. But obviously with like bigger enemies like that, if you got a quick second to charge it all the way up, you're going to get the most damage potential out of it. For grenades, I recommend Pulse Grenade. I know a lot of people have some conversations and stuff about using the Storm Grenade because it might do a little bit more damage or something like that, but Pulse Grenade does the same amount of damage for the same amount of time. And I think it kind of like, blocks out enemies better and stuff like that. And it's just always been very reliable for me. For your aspects, I recommend Touch of Thunder because for your Pulse Grenade, it's going to create ionic traces for you. And those ionic traces are going to give you ability energy throughout. So it's definitely something that's very useful. Obviously, like I mentioned before, the Storm Grenade is still very good. It reads after detonating, creates a roaming thundercloud that tracks nearby foes, but unfortunately just doesn't do as much as it originally did. So that's why I just recommend Pulse. Just get those ionic traces and help fill out your other abilities. And finally, recommend Knockout. Critically wounding a target or breaking their shield infuses your melee attack with arc energy, increases your melee range and damage for a short time, and defeating a target makes you amplified and gives you health regen. Now, this is obviously really nice because it's going to, one, make you amplified, help out all your other abilities, but it's also going to help with that health regen. This is where I'm saying if you're like maybe a lower level player and you just haven't got Knockout yet or something like that, go with Insurmountable Skull Fort. It'll fill out that part out for you, but Knockout essentially fills that need and will get you a lot more out of it with the point contact cannon braces. For our fragments, I recommend Spark of Beacons. While you're amplified, your arc special weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. This is just really nice whenever you're using any arc special, you're able to get those cool explosions around that will just like kind of like stun targets for you. So That's really nice. And also that helps against unstoppables. Spark of Ions, defeating a jolted target creates ionic traces. Again, just adding into all the energy that we have in this setup. Spark of Discharge, arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. Again, just filling out more ionic traces. And then finally, Spark of Shock, your arc grenade jolts targets. Now, my biggest issue when it comes to, arc all around is the fragments. I don't think they're all really that great. So this is something where I'd say like the jolting targets is like the most efficient one. And then maybe also the arc weapon final blows and the defeating jolted targets. Other than that, it's just kind of up to you, whatever is filling out your build the best. Now, if you've been around my channel, you know that I am an absolute stan for the Monte Carlo, and the Monte Carlo is definitely something I recommend for this setup because of the Monte Carlo method. Intrinsic trait on this. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee ability with each kill. This is obviously great because it's going to help us get that thunderclap back as much as humanly possible, and all around as well with the trait, the Markov chain, it's going to get increased damage, and whenever you get those melee kills, it's going to refill the mag of the Monte Carlo, just helping the overall flow of this setup. I don't have the Monte Carlo catalyst right now, but it would not add anything to this build just because of the fact that it's just creating a glaive at the end of our weapon and just stabbing something. This isn't a stabbing build, this is a thunderclap build. Now, for your other weapons, I definitely recommend arc weapons. I have a Path of Least Resistance that's really great with Volt Shot, and then obviously a Wendigo Adept that I got from a couple seasons back. But yeah, definitely that. I mean, I would say something like a Cold Heart as well would be really nice, just for the fact that it creates ionic traces and you're able to take advantage of a lot of those arc special stuff. But again, I really just like using the Monte Carlo just to take full advantage of the point contact cannon braces with Thunderclap. Now, when it comes to the armor that we're going to be using for this setup, on our helmet, I recommend using obviously a kinetic siphon because we're going to be mainly using a kinetic weapon for this, but you can also use the harmonic siphon if that works better for you. And then access to assets and hands-on, I think, are an absolute must just for a even flow of our melee and our grenade, giving us super energy. For our gauntlets, I'm a big fan of momentum transfer and impact induction because it creates this just like ebb and flow. Your melee helps out your grenade helps out your melee. And then I always like to do a melee kickstart with this, since we're gonna be picking up orbs of power. We can take full advantage of getting our thunderclap back as much as humanly possible. But if this is something you're not interested in, maybe a fastball wouldn't be too terrible, or even using one of the focusing strike or the boltering detonation so that we can get some more energy back to our ability. On our chest piece, I always like to do double concussive dampener, and then I added a charge up to give us another armor charge spot, so that we're getting more chances of getting that melee back as fast as humanly possible. On our boots, I did an absolution just for, a little bit more ability cooldown, a recuperation for some health whenever we pick up an orb of power, and then a stacks on stacks so that every time we pick up an orb of power, we are getting another actual charge of armor charge for our stuff. Now, you can add an elemental charge since we're going to be getting plenty of ionic traces. This is a pretty solid option all around, but that is just something I would say is completely up to you. And then finally, on our Titan Mark, a double distribution so that whenever we use that ability around enemies, we are going to get all of our cooldowns, and then as well a powerful traction to pull those orbs of power to us whenever we use our class ability around them. Now, when it comes to the artifact this season, again, the first two slots aren't really that useful. Obviously, you're going to want to go into elemental orbs for the arc section. On the fourth column, I did communal pickups so that whenever me or my teammate activate a tangle or an orb, we get a bit of a cooldown for that, and then also in an elemental fury, so that champs are going to take more damage from our abilities. I did a rapid fire ranger to weaken targets whenever I'm getting precision damage, and then also a frenzied stacks so that I'm getting an armor charge whenever I pick up an orb of power. Like I said before, if I was to swap out a certain exotic for this, I'd probably say the insurmountable skull would be a good option for our armor. And then again, like I said, for the weapons, I would say something like a Cold Heart would be a pretty solid option, just for the fact that it's able to create those ionic traces and take full advantage of this entire tree. Thanks so much for watching this video, everyone. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Again, really excited to be doing some more content and whatnot in Destiny, so make sure you're leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, becoming a member, and commenting something that you're interested in seeing down below, whether it is Titan, Warlock, or Hunter. But yeah, guys, seriously, thank you so much. Make sure you're using my code BIRD30 from the 25th to the 28th for 30% off on your advanced.gg order. And then yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great night, day, whatever it may be.